training. Led by Deborah Cavanis, President and CEO, OIC prepares and empowers adults for today's workforce, the changing economy, and environmental challenges. Now, if anybody would like more information on our two organizations, I will provide that in the chat. And thank you. Go ahead, hon.
Okay, thanks, Diana. Now some brief info on SCORE. There's about 230 offices, 10,000 volunteers nationally. SCORE is an SBA resource partner, and SCORE Fairfield County has about 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer 3 primary evaluated services to small business owners. First, free one-on-one counseling. Second, educational in-person workshops and live webinars like this one, about 100 per year. And third, we have extensive resources on our website, including templates to help build your business plan. Some useful info about today's event. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our workshop will end promptly at 1 p.m. to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now our speaker, Dr. Sonji Phillips, is the Chief Executive Officer of Briason Associates, a premier provider of workforce development, strategic planning, and behavior intervention services. With a doctorate in industrial and organizational psychology and over 20 years of experience in clinical and administrative roles, Dr. Phillips has played a pivotal role in tripling the revenue of nonprofit organizations, developing impactful training programs, and streamlining operational efficiency. I'll now turn it over to Sonji. Sonji, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Diana. Okay, so it is so great to be here, conducting this training. And so we have 1 hour, so I want to jump in because, of course, as an industrial and organizational psychologist, I do lots and lots of research. So we've got lots of content to get through on this afternoon. And so what we will do, just a little housekeeping, what we can do is if you have questions as I go along, I will periodically stop and say, does anyone have any questions? And at that time, Tim, would you be able to see the chat and let me know if there are any questions in there?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so let's get started this afternoon. So we are talking about civility in the workplace and how to maintain civility in the workplace. So today is going to be a very interesting training. Everyone, if you've worked, you've seen some incivility in your workplace, and then you've seen civility in your workplace. So we're just going to talk a little bit today about how to get around both areas. And so civility in the workplace is all about finding a good working point in organizations. We know in today's society that more employers are looking, as they're hiring, more are looking to hire people with a great EQ, more so than a great IQ. And the reason is because if they recognize that you have, degrees or you have experience or things like that, then they recognize that they can probably train you how to do the core competencies and the skills of your job. What they're really wondering, or what they don't really get on an interview, is whether or not you'll be able to build up the team. What is your EQ, your emotional quotient score? What is your emotional intelligence? And so many employers are finding you bring a person in with low emotional intelligence and they can destroy the fiber of that organization. Just one bad apple can rot the whole bunch, right? So more employers are looking for ways to test people's emotional intelligence as part of the interviewing process. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how we can be respectful in the workplace, what that looks like, and ways that we can deal with it and improve it. So now let's jump right into the importance of civility in the workplace. So it's important because everyone wants to work in a positive work environment. what we found, through research is that when people enjoy their job, they love to come in, they work better. Their performance is better overall. And so now you have a more productive workplace. Everyone has worked on a job where at the end of the day, you didn't feel like you accomplished anything, and if you haven't, then, you are truly blessed. But most of us have worked on a job where at the end of the day, we didn't really feel like we've accomplished much. I had a bunch of work to do when I walked in, and I walked out with a bunch of work still left to do. But when you enjoy the work you do and you work in a great environment, you become more productive. And for the employer, that means more profitability for their organization. So today's session, we're going to clarify the concept of workplace civility, and we're going to outline some negative consequences of incivility on both individuals and organizations. And we're going to provide some actionable strategies to encourage respectful interactions and engagements. So let's begin with what is workplace civility. So, a definition of workplace civility is it embodies respectful interactions that enhance workplace dynamics. So, a good working definition is civility in the workplace. It embodies and it enhances the dynamics that go on within the organization. And so, how does it do it? Through active listening, through employees listening to one another, hearing one another out. Very important. Having polite communication. If you're a person that whenever you speak, you speak with the I's and not the U's, I don't know if anyone has, had that type of training where you recognize that when you speak, you don't speak about you. You did this, you did that, you didn't do this correctly. I'm waiting for you, right? And then the person with each new you, it's like you. But when you say, well, I want to accomplish this by the end of the day. I think this would be, I think it would be maybe better done this way. I want to, and then taking accountability for things that may or may not go right. That's a powerful conversation right there. So now you're not walking and telling other people what they've done wrong, but you're taking some of the responsibility of what might have gone right. How many times have I had to say to my team, maybe I didn't say this the right way, or maybe I didn't communicate this properly or appropriately. Looking at ways that I can change the way that I do things so that I can better accommodate the employees, the staff, my peers, the team, stakeholders, and not focusing so much on whatever their areas or their shortcomings may be. Very important as part of a team. Using inclusive language, we're going to, we, the team, us. Another important facet of communication. Why? Because no one wants to feel like they're working in silos. So I'm going to slow this down because I feel like I'm kind of rushing through it because I'm a little bit, I want to make sure I get in all of the points, but let me just slow this down a little bit. We went through COVID, and many people worked in silos for months, maybe even years, because everyone was working from home. And then once organizations saw, well, we can successfully work from home, many organizations did not bring their employees back into the office. They kind of used that capital funding for other resources in the agency, or they used it for other fundings, in the organization, and they allowed, employees to continue to work from home. You have half of the employees that said, all right, I don't have to leave out of the house anymore. And then you have the other half that said, that was really my only time that I engaged with other people. Going in the office was fun. We sat around the water cooler. We had coffee in the morning. And so there is something to be said about working together as a team. And so as we discuss inclusive language, we discuss the inclusivity of working together as a team. And what are the benefits of civility? It is that collaboration between the members of the team. It is having that place and that space where you feel welcomed and you feel valued and you feel important. Okay, so let's compare a little bit about civil behavior and uncivil behavior. Now, before I get into that, were there any questions?
Yes, we do have one question, and it's kind of in the nature of a comment as well. While employers are seeking ways to weed out folks with low emotional intelligence, do you offer best practice info on professional development within the firm to build emotional intelligence? His belief is that
Absolutely.
EI is learned.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, absolutely. Emotional intelligence, unlike your IQ, intelligence quotient, the emotional quotient is something that you develop over time. So, the more practice that you get, the higher your emotional intelligence. So, absolutely. Conducting trainings on emotional intelligence, conducting trainings on managing civility, because there may be one or two things that when we go through this training that you'll realize, wow, I didn't even think about that. That is kind of, uncivil. So bringing to your workers, your staff's awareness that these behaviors can be considered uncivil. It's about educating and training. Many organizations, do I want to say many? No, I don't want to say. I want to say most organizations, they do value training and they do see the value in training, and employees appreciate the training because otherwise they feel like they're just kind of floating along, figuring it out for themselves until they make a mistake and then the hammer gets laid down on them, right? So I've just been figuring out my job for the last 5 years. We've never had professional development training. I'm doing the best I can. I think I'm doing a great job. Then my boss writes me up. I get poor performance evaluations every year. I don't even know why, because I feel like I'm doing a great job. But if there was a level of both training and evaluation, performance evaluations, coaching and mentoring, these things are very important to maintain a good, strong work team. And we never want to undervalue we never want to undervalue how they help to your staff to perform on the job. So yes, definitely emotional intelligence training, definitely periodic coaching and mentoring sessions, performance reviews, supervisions, things of that nature will help to raise up the emotional intelligence of all of your employees. Once they realize what they're doing wrong, then that gives them the opportunity to make the change. And when you hold them accountable for not making the change, many times we don't make changes because we're not held accountable, but there's no consequence for me doing the things that I do. So now when there are consequences to what I do, now I realize I've got to make a change. So I hope I answered that question and didn't just dance around it for you. Civil behavior. So civil behavior, it fosters a positive work environment. Uncivil behavior, it it undermines the workplace harmony. So some of the things that we can do when we perform civilly in an organization, greeting workers. Just recently, I was at an organization and I saw where everyone was so polite when they came in. Hi, Sally. Hi, Jane. Hi, Donald. Hi, Donovan. Hi. And I'm just listening to it as each person is coming because, we go into organizations and we do trainings. And as each person came in for the training, they were just greeting each other so warmly and so kindly. And how was you? And nobody was left out. There was nobody sitting on the side like this that no one didn't speak to. Everyone was engaged. Everyone was spoken to. Everyone was asked how their day was. And each new person that came in did the same thing. It was just amazing to watch. And so this is one way, just greeting your coworkers and acknowledging the work that they do on projects. So, that was a great job that you did, Tim, on that project that we worked on last week. I couldn't have done that without you. Just being clear, being transparent. It's something to be said about being able to There's something to be said about being able to feel valued as a valued part of your team. There are times that there are conflicts that go on, but they have to be addressed, but there should be a respectful way that we address them. So nobody should feel beaten down by any mistake that they make. They should feel, okay, I messed up. I shouldn't have put that there. I shouldn't have added that, and there should be a way that they are still encouraged through their errors or through their mistakes so that they know it's okay. Making mistakes is human and we live on from it. We're a team. We drive together. We work together. We're going to build this company together. Now, uncivil behavior, ignoring colleagues, you come in and I don't have to say hi to no one. They're not my friends. I don't need friends. So I just come in, I go to my desk, I sit down, I do my work. That's really uncivil behavior. We need to help employees to understand what damage things like that does to the workforce. We don't have to be best friends. We don't have to go home tonight together. But while we're here, there should be a respectful greeting. Good morning. How are you? Or if you don't want to know how they're doing, I hope all is well. Right? When we gossip about others, because it does get back. Eventually, somebody hears that somebody is talking about somebody. Now, I'm uncomfortable. I'm not a part of the gossip clique. I come in, I speak to everybody. I'm very friendly, but every time I pass this office, I hear the going on. Now, I'm very positive, very energetic, but now I'm pulling away from the entire office because I don't want to be a part of the people that they're talking about in the office. I don't, you know, the condescending, the rude tones that may come. Hey, how's everybody doing? Fine, fine. These behaviors can develop into a toxic work environment. And what happens is the people that have to live or not live, sorry, who have to operate in these environments, it decreases their morale. There's nothing like not wanting to get up in the morning and go to work, right? Worst feeling in the world. Okay. We are looking at, and let me just go back right quick, the business impact of incivility. So when there's incivility at the workplace, there is an impact to the business. And a few things that we have is it decreases the employee morale and engagement. So now I know that there's, Tim and Diana don't really get along. I don't want to be on either one of their sides. So what do? I tend to fall back. I stay under the radar, right? These are the terms we hear. I stay under the radar. I fall back a little bit because I like them both and I don't want either one of them to feel that I'm on the other one's side. So I don't want Tim to see me talking too much to Diana. I don't want, so let me just step back. I tend to just kind of stay in my office. I keep my door closed and I just do it. This is what happens when there's incivility in the workplace, even if it is just between two employees. So we have to recognize that one bad apple spoils the whole bunch. So when we see a problem, even with one employee, we have to address it immediately. We can't allow it to just go and say, well, you know what, we got work to do. No, because that person and all of their low emotional intelligence directly affects the bottom line of the business or the organization. The other employees will begin to feel as though they're not that happy on the job. They won't be as motivated to do as much. And so now we're sitting in our office. Maybe I have some stuff that I have to get out, but you know what? I'm not going out there because there's so much that goes on out there. I'll wait till the end of the day and I'll just take everything out together and I'll just drop it off, right? This is what happens. Increased turnover and absenteeism. So years ago, I'm not about to tell my age, but years ago, we didn't have something like a mental health day as part of our sick days. You know, it just wasn't a thing. Today people can take off mental health days. once upon a time you had to be sick and you know, like you had to cough and to sneeze on the line as you're calling your supervisor to say, I'm not feeling well, I'm out today. You know, meanwhile, once you get off the phone, you're just like, it's so much going on there. I can't today. I can't. I got a lot going on and I just can't get there and have to deal with these people. Is that not crazy? That you would have an employee that is not willing to come to work because they can't deal with the chaos or the work environment. That should never be a thing. That should never be a thing. And incivility can lead to a higher turnover rate. So now we have the organization, the business enduring costs. And I just looked up some stats. And in 2024, December of 2024, SHRM recognized that turnover is costing businesses over $4 billion. And this is in this new administration. Everything that's going on now is costing organizations over $4 billion and having to retrain staff, having to find staff, and lost time. So, you know, people think, well, we're saving money because we're not paying them out, but now you're losing other staff because now you're piling the work on other staff to do. And now they're calling in sick and they're calling out and they're using days and sick time. You know, so yeah, you want to create that environment where the employees always feel as though they are comfortable to come in, maybe even almost like a safe haven. Work should be almost like a safe haven for most employees. Before I move on, are there any questions?
None added so far.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So also, with incivility in the workplace, you have reduced productivity and collaboration. As I said, it's not likely that your team is going to collaborate, even if the problem is between two specific employees. Other members of the team, they don't want to get involved because I don't want to be seen on either person's side. I just want to stay under the radar. And, you know, and now what's going on in the office is everyone is distracted by all the drama that's going on in the office. So now your employees are doing their work 60% of the day, and 40% of the day, they're dealing with the drama. They're talking about what happened next. Who did what? Who said what? Who's supposed to do this? Who's supposed to do that? And now you're losing resources or you're losing services. And you, as an employer, you can't figure out what is going on here. We're not producing. What's happening? It's all a part of the uncivil work environment. And of course, you have a higher risk of legal or HR issues, right? Because now everyone is taking it to HR. Somebody wants to sue because I'm working in a hostile work environment. My rights are being violated. I'm not being respected. You know, all of these legal battles that cost agencies time and money. Nothing like an employee leaving without giving notice, but leaving on that day. This is my last day, right? I've done this enough. Nobody's addressing it. I've brought it to your attention. Today is my last day. Here's my resignation. And then they leave. And then what do you see right after that? Litigation. So now you have to find new employees and deal with a litigation from an employee who is claiming, you know, whatever is happening in a hostile work environment. And then what do you as the employer think? Did this all come about from Sonji and Tim's argument a year ago? Yeah, but it was never addressed. It was pushed under the rug. And the thought was, listen, we can't deal with this and we can move on. A year later, we're still dealing with the remnants from what happened the year prior. So let's look at some costs of incivility as I discussed. Approximately 30% of employees report losing time worrying about disrespectful behavior in the workplace. Okay, so that was the number. It wasn't 60-40, it was 30-70. 30% of the people report losing time focused on behaviors in the workplace. A third of your employees' time is spent just dragging out what happened last week. Who's fighting? Who's arguing? I don't like the way my supervisor. Can you imagine? A third of your employees' day you're paying, but a third of their day is developed around the drama. 50% of employees admit to intentionally reducing their work effort. Okay, that's where my 40 came from. 50% of employees admit to intentionally reducing their work effort when faced with uncivil behavior. 50% of your employees. So now they're just quiet quitting, right? So I'm sitting in the office. Listen, my boss, he's not very nice. She's not decent to me. Every time I do something, it's wrong. I can't get it. You know what? I'm just going to do enough so I don't get fired because I need this job. Nope, I'm not gonna raise my hand in the meeting. I'm not gonna make any more suggestions. I'm not gonna offer up any support to any of my peers. If somebody leaves here and they need other employees to help out and take some of their workload, I'm letting them know I'm overwhelmed. I can't help. I'm quietly quitting this place. About 25% of employees have left their jobs due to incivility, reflecting a significant impact on retention rates. 25% of employees have left their jobs because of incivility. This makes a great impact to organizations. You have, with the thought in mind that it is approximately 40%. No, it is approximately 30% loss in employees that are not willing, 30% of employees that are losing time worrying, 50% that are not doing what they need to do, and 25% leaving the job. These are some big stats here. These are some big numbers. Big numbers. So how does civility benefit organizations? So let's build a culture of civility. How is that going to help our organization? Well, if we build a culture of civility in the work environment, it can strengthen the team cohesion. And so how is that done? Because now everyone understands, okay, I'll give you an example of how this works. Most of the organizations that I've worked in, as a leader, we get along. We understand each other. We're compassionate. Like we work together as a team. And there are times that I've had to say to my team, hello, the meeting started at 10. Where's everyone? Oh, I had to do this, I had to do that. And I would say, listen, keep playing with me, keep coming in late. There are consequences to coming in late, and they would laugh. Oh boy, don't get her started. Please, y'all better come in on time. Listen, I'm not dealing with her consequences, but it was a friendly atmosphere. And everyone understood. Now, everyone understood that I was very serious when I said it. I mean, our meetings need to start on time. But because we had that work together relationship, the other members of the team were able to say to those that were coming in late, listen, I'm not playing with you. You better come in on time because I'm not dealing with this woman right here and her consequences. And at the end of the day, we would all laugh, but they understood that I was serious about coming in on time. And as I say, often to organizations and businesses, when you come in late, it shows a sense of disorganization, a poor time management. Now, who knows what might have happened? Maybe something happened in the car. Maybe something happened with the kids. Maybe you had a report to do, but when others look at it, what they see is poor time management. And so how much does a person that's in the meeting with you trust your services or even your integrity if you can't make it to a meeting on time? And then even bigger than that, coming to meetings on time is incivil. Yes. Would you believe that? Coming to a meeting late is considered a part of uncivil behaviors. Think about what that does to other people in the room. If I'm coming in late to meetings and we can't start the meeting until I get there, and then I'll even give you one worse. What about the person or the people that come in late to the meeting and they've got coffee and breakfast? So I'm running out of my house. I'm a lunatic getting out here so I can get to this meeting on time. I haven't eaten, I haven't gotten my morning coffee, but it's important that I get to this meeting on time. And now we've had to wait 20 minutes until the rest of the team joined us, and they're walking in the door with coffee and breakfast. That can bring about a little bit of incivility, right? I did see a hand go up, or I saw something pop up in the chat.
There is a comment about emotional intelligence. So this individual has used the term for years, but there are folks that often are disturbed by the definition of either word, uh, disturbed by emotions, feelings. They're not really supposed to be part of the business, I guess, world. It's harder to sell civility to a group of people if they are harboring conscious or unconscious bias against the term. So I guess he's saying, is there another term besides emotional intelligence? Maybe it's something like empathy or a cooperative nature or team focused or something other than
Emotional.
emotional.
So what I want to say is, I don't know of another term that we have used in the business world to replace emotional, but I know that they do, that organizations will conduct personality tests or personality trainings or personality awareness, things of that nature, which is very similar. You know, the work that we build into the training is very similar to emotional intelligence because it discusses self-reflection, self-awareness, because yeah, I don't know of a word in particular that we've used to replace it, but I know lots of trainings that we do around personality. It reflects much of the same as emotional intelligence. And just for people who may not be aware of emotional intelligence, it's our ability to understand how we impact others around us. It's a literal score of how well we do with building a team, driving a team, working cohesively within a team, our awareness of the things that we say to others and how others are affected. You know, sometimes you have people that walk in the room and they just kind of spew out at everybody and they're done and they walk back out and everybody in the room is like, wow, God, my goodness, what? They have no emotional intelligence. They're not even aware of how they just walked into this room where everyone was happy and yeah, we're gonna do this and they just tore it apart. So it's about people's awareness of how they're affecting others and how they leave others and whether or not their affect is building others or tearing others down. So that closely relates to personality as well. So that would be the closest thing that I would say to emotional intelligence. If we decide we don't want to use the word emotional intelligence, you know, we can probably use some of the same studies and some of the same ideals through emotional intelligence, but we can call it personality development. Yep. Okay. Again, I hope I didn't dance around that question. I hope I went directly to it. Okay. Any other questions before I go on?
There was one from another attendee. Do you find there's a different cost of incivility analysis between the public sector, the nonprofits, or the private sectors?
So I definitely, absolutely do. There is definitely a difference. And I'm going to tell you some of what I think impacts the difference. So I don't have the numbers in front of me. So I don't want to speak because I've already screwed up that 40% from the 30% when it's not right in front of me. So I don't want to do that again. But what I want to say, what I can say is, for one, private providers, they kind of build their own rules around the expectations of the job and people's performance. And their policies and procedures are live documents. They grow with every situation that happens. So when a situation happens, in the organization, now there's a new policy to address it. It's a new procedure to address it. When you're working with city, state, and government officials, there's a larger oversight. It's more of a global oversight. So every situation, unless it grows to the eyes of the global oversight, it doesn't get addressed through policy and procedure. I think in city, state, and federal workers, there are a lot more support for employees. They have unions that support them. But I also believe city, state, and federal organizations find themselves struggling more with work ethics because of the strong unions that they have. Staff are more liable to protest their rights. I have the right and I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. Whereas in private organizations, I'm not going to say it doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen to the level that it does in a city, state, or federal organization. So with that being said, I can't speak to which agency has less civility or more civility. I want to say that it really goes according to the leadership. So how the leadership establishes their department in a private organization, the rest of that organization flows just like that. It flows just like that because they've set the standard, but it's not so in city, state, and federal because of the diversity of workers, because the rules are set so high and globally that the workers are more inclined to to look for their rights as opposed to kind of following, in lead with whatever the culture of the organization is. I hope that helps, and I hope I answered your question.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. So, sorry, I gotta go back. How civility benefits organization is it improves communication and trust. When we're civil in here, I trust that my opinion is valued. I trust that what I say will take effect, within the organization. I trust that that I'm going to be in a safe space. I trust that this is a safe space for ideas and cultivating new innovative ideas and programs and systems, and so it improves communication and trust. It encourages innovation and problem solving. It enhances customer satisfaction and brand reputation. I am just going to give my truth. I am more likely to continue to patronize a business where they have amazing customer service and the product is pretty good, as opposed to patronizing an organization where the customer service is terrible, but the product is the best that you can find it. I just will. I like going in and hearing, hey, how you doing? How's everything? I like that. I don't want to go into an organization where I've got to say, okay, Sonji, prepare yourself, breathe, relax. You're in a good space, you're in a safe space, and now I'm prepared to deal with your staff, right? Okay, leadership's role in fostering a workplace civility. So as I discussed with answering that question, the leaders are pivotal in developing that culture of civility within that workplace. They set the standard. However that supervisor come in, however that supervisor addresses the problem, however, whatever reinforcement that supervisor uses, that supervisor's staff are going to use it, and that leader's staff and that staff and that staff, like each level, a role work level is going to use a similar tone because they're going to recognize that my incivility will not be accepted here. We have positive affects. We use positive words and we use encouragement here. And if I come in with an incivil attitude, then it's not going to be accepted here. So those employees, they may come in, but they don't generally stay long. They kind of find their way back out. And just to compare it to the question that was asked, you find more of a transition out or more of a turnover in private organizations because in city, state, federal, you know, there is such a procedure that has to happen before they can be terminated as part of the union, as part of their contracts. You know, so you're more than likely to have to continue to deal with a person who doesn't adapt to the culture of the organization more in a city, state, or federal job than you are in a private industry. So I just want to throw that out. Also, the leadership, as I said before, offering training programs, some that are focused on civility and effective communication. It also helps employees to deal better with one another and to build a respectful culture. So some practical strategies for staff. What can staff do? Use respectful tone and language. You know, let's leave our home life at the door. Let's recognize that when we walk into the job, it's just about the work that we have to do there. And anything that you did on yesterday, that's gone. It's gone. Yeah, we worked on that project. You didn't pull up your end. You had whatever going on. We didn't make the deadline. We got in trouble for that. And I don't know what trouble is for adults, you know. I don't know what trouble is for adults, but you know. But we didn't meet that deadline. We had to work overtime last night to complete the deadline, you know, because one person didn't submit their stuff on time. So let's not return back to the office the next day angry. Let's not return back, you know, with that energy that we had on last night. Yeah, we were in the grunt of the work and I'm tired and I'm hungry. My kids are waiting. You know, like we had all of that going on the night before. But when we return to work, let's not return with that same energy. That day is gone. There's nothing we can do to change that day. It's gone. When we walk into the door, whatever misunderstandings we've had amongst each other on yesterday, let's let that bygones be bygones. Let's talk openly and honestly about it. Girl, you know, last night I was out of my head dealing with this, but today is another day, and I'm sorry about, you know, what I did. It was just I had so much going on. You know what? It's done. It's over. Let's move on, right? Let's use respectful tone and respectful language. Let's practice listening to one another. Let's not talk over each other. Everyone has something to say. And believe it or not, even that person that may use a different tone, you know, we have sometimes people that use more of an abrasive tone when they're speaking. I've worked with people that have an abrasive tone. And sometimes, you know, even though I've done as much as I could to kind of train and to coach them into the right way and appropriate way and socially acceptable way, tone and language to use, you always get that return day where they just come and, you know, and I would just say, okay, listen, stop. Just write it down. Whatever you're about to tell me, just write it down because you're starting off wrong with first of all. Okay. So whatever I'm just not in the headspace today to deal with it. So write it down and then we can go over it. You know, and when you have that type of rapport with your staff, you know, they'll laugh and be like, okay, Sonji, okay, I got you. I got you. I know I came in wrong, right? I came in wrong. Let me go back out the door. Let me say, thank you. Thank you. You know, but you have to have that sort of rapport with your staff where you guys can speak openly and honestly, and nobody is giving offense and nobody is taking offense. That should be practiced at all times. And I'm listening and I hear what you're saying. I hear exactly what you said, and what you're saying is important, right? Offer constructive feedback. Okay, so I get what you're saying and I see how it applies. So why don't we kind of table this and let's look at this, you know, at another time. You're in a meeting and you know, you set an agenda for the meeting and your goal is to get through that agenda by the end of the meeting. And sometimes people are raising their hands, they have suggestions, they have recommendations. I want to add, I want to add, I want to add to the meeting. Sometimes you have to say, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we write down everything that we're saying because I need to get through the agenda. We can close out the meeting, and those of you that have additional ideas, let's stay behind and kind of discuss that. And anyone that wants to hear about what's, you know, and then we'll bring that back to the next meeting because now you're creating a controlled environment. Because now when you bring it back, you're not telling a story that could take 10 minutes to tell, but you're telling it in, you know, 15 minutes. So people write it down. Oh, Lord. Sorry. A bird just hit my window. I hope he's all right, but okay. So So, you're controlling the narrative of how that works. So then now you're able to bring about a better understanding of what they have to say. And it's not that you're pushing off. I appreciate what you said, and we're going to bring this back to the table. And then we must acknowledge diverse perspectives. We're not all the same people, and diversity is what builds our organizations up to be great organizations. So if everyone had the same point of view, we could not build this organization to be what it is. But we need the diversity. We need the young like the old. We need the different races and the different genders. We need all of that so that we can see the perspective of everything around us, right? And most of all, avoid workplace gossip. Let's not do it. Oh, did you hear about so and so? I can't. I gotta focus on this, right? Just push that back. I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to bring that in here. I've got other things that I've got to do. This is what leaders can do. I don't even want to hear it. And then as well, encourage that among your staff. Effective conflict management strategies. Staying calm. Nope. Staying calm and objective. Please don't take sides. Conflicts come in. Remember that you must be fair to everyone around the table. So remain calm, even if it's about you. Sonji, you didn't hear what so-and-so said about you? You know what? Let's address it in this way and move on. I'm not giving my energy to it, because then wherever your energy goes, your power flows. And so now for the rest of the day, your whole focus is on that little workplace gossip or that conflict that happened when you've got a big report due at the end of the day, or you just need to be doing something other than that, right? And you focus on behavior, not on traits. I want to address how we're working and how we're working effectively. I get it that, this culture may engage in this way and that culture may engage in that way, but let's focus on what's on the table right now. This is what we're dealing with right now. So I don't care if you're a female, and most women, you hear that, right? A lot on the office. Most women do such and such and such. Okay, don't do that. Just deal with what I bring to the table. Seek common ground. We're not always going to agree, but let's seek some common ground. Where can we all come together? So we were in this meeting, and this meeting was supposed to be for 90 minutes. We're going into 2 hours, and it doesn't seem like we have reached an end point. So let's find some common ground. What do we all agree on? And then from there, I'm going to lay this out, put this together, because you've got to stop it. At some point, you've got to stop it, because otherwise it becomes a debate and it becomes a debacle. So this meeting was supposed to be 90 minutes. I have used up an additional 12 minutes of your time. So this meeting is going to come to an end. Where are our common grounds? What's our common ground, so that when we come together, I can flesh this out and then we can discuss a little more then. Right? You're controlling the narrative. And involve HR or leadership. As much as you can, involve HR. Let them be that mutual person. So it's not you against anyone else. It's a mutual person that's standing in saying, nope, I don't think that's correct. Many cases we work as an outsource for many agencies through HR, and it's so interesting when we go in, because management has their thought process of what's right and what's wrong. I'm writing her up because she did this wrong, and this one did that wrong, and I'm writing them up. And then we step in as that, and they bring us in as sort of a mediator, or just to provide HR services. And then we said, well, you can't write them up for this, because this was a part of her job. This is a part of her responsibilities. Well, you can't write that one up, because look at your policy. Your policy does not say that. Yeah, it would make sense, but it's not in your policy and procedure. So there was no infraction of your policy and procedure. And now management realized, okay, well, we've got to buff up our policy and procedures. We've got to develop some protocols in here. And then we've got to have a systemic way of dealing with these issues. Absolutely. And now the staff feel as though they're being treated fair, because it's no longer what that manager's mood today, and that's how I know if I'll get written up or not. No, we have systems in place. So promoting team agreements and encouraging peer recognition. So wherever possible, promote the team to come together, encourage them, encourage each one of the peers, come together. You guys work together on this. You know what? This is what we're trying to do. Why don't you two come together and work together? Encourage teams to come together. Help the teams to understand what it looks like to be civil towards one another. Help them to understand how they can benefit in working together. This boosts morale more than anything else, kind of putting it into play, teams working together. When I ran group homes, I would do this often. You two and these two group homes, you guys come together and I need you to do whatever it is, but partnering them up together. And one of the things that they knew, listen, don't let Sonji see you arguing, because next week y'all gonna be paired up together, right? And everyone would laugh. Yeah, we know how Sonji is. Yeah, I'm gonna make you guys come together and work together to a perfect end. So while we reflect on incivility, okay, we are looking at how each team is going to work together. We're looking on different ways, different strategies that reflects and will foster a deeper understanding of civility's importance and inspire the team. So civility as a collective commitment, it fosters positive culture, a positive workplace. It enhances collaborations and productivity among diverse teams. Pull your teams in, break them up into work groups, break them up into teams to get things together, to get things done, and allow them to work together for a perfect end. It improves your employee retention. And so now you don't have to worry about having to hire new people, because now once you work together, you're able to be able to continue to grow. So what we knew today, we now have the same people and we're growing them into our next line and our next line. And as we continue to grow as an organization. And then ensure that everyone has a personal commitment to civility. Make sure that everyone is committed. You may have to pull a person aside. Tim, I saw what happened between you and Diana. What's going on there? It's just I don't have a problem with Diana. It's just, we're working on this project and it got a little long-winded. Okay, well, you guys need to make sure, because you're the leadership of this organization. So you need to, make sure that you represent team engagement and working together, right? Thank you for your engagement. Questions, comments.
Yep, there's no additional at the moment, but I was thinking that some of that uncivil behavior really starts with the supervisors and the managers. One situation I think of a dozen or so employees, and a lot of them work from home, but they have a daily morning meeting, and it is always negative. The supervisor is finding fault with someone on the team, that they did something, and behind their back, they're joking that, I wonder who's in the hot seat today, and it's they definitely don't want to dial into the meetings. It's just, what would you do in situations like that?
You have to bring the team together to have a more open dialogue and more open discussion. And then those key people that are really maintaining or promoting that uncivil environment, you've got to speak to them. You've got to let them know this is not going to be acceptable here. You can't perform in this way. You can't behave in this way. And then for leaders, get leaders trainers. Leaders are people too. A lot of times, leaders just need to understand how their words are impacting the people that they work with. It's just necessary sometimes that they understand it, because they're people. They come in with problems, and yeah, they come in with their own problems, their own situations, and they need to understand how they're impacting the people around them. So definitely leadership training, executive training, and I just want to say this right quick, that so many times leaders bring us into their organization to do training for their staff, because we don't know what's going on with the staff and the staff and the staff and the staff. After our third day of training, we realized it's not really the staff. We need to work with that leadership team. Of course, we keep that to ourselves, and we go in and we engage. And then once we begin working on that top, then the bottom just flows, right? And then you have to learn how to manage up so you don't exactly let leadership know that you're actually helping to develop them.
Okay, so the last one is just a comment. This was a webinar that offered me words, phrases, and straight talk. Well worth my time to show up. Thank you, Sonji. Okay, so as a reminder, recording this webinar, any materials will be available within a couple of days on the fairfieldcounty.score.org website. Please check our website for information on upcoming webinars. Again, SCORE offers free individual counseling, so please visit our website and click Request a Mentor. We are available for sessions via phone, email, or video. Also, please fill out your evaluations that will be sent at the end of the webinar. On behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's live webinar. In closing, a big thank you to Dr. Phillips for presenting today. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your Juneteenth. Thank you for having me, Tim and Diana.